Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. It's Sunday, and that means we are here for the weekly recap. So that's right. All the top stories from the week of February 2, 2026, all located here in one convenient location. That's right. Everything you want to know about the Nancy Guthrie story is right here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.
All right, lawyer.
A guilty verdict in the au pair affair double murder trial. A jury convicted Brendan Banfield today on all charges in the aggravated murders of his wife, Christine Banfield, and Joseph Ryan, concluding a closely watched trial that exposed an alleged elaborate scheme involving infidelity and deception. Is there any other way to have a good murder trial? No. Little three-way lovers triangle, throw in a little deception. Maybe an innocent victim gets lured to the place. It's got the makings of some good true crime, does it not? Well, the Fairfax County jury, after deliberating nearly 9 hours over 2 days, returning guilty verdicts on 2 counts of aggravated murder, along with the additional charge including use of a firearm in the commission of a felony and child endangerment. The offenses stem from the February 2023 killing at the couple's home in Herndon, Virginia, where the Banfield's young daughter was present. Now, prosecutors presented evidence that Banfield, a former IRS law enforcement officer, engaged in an extramarital affair with the family's Brazilian au pair. They alleged he masterminded a plan to eliminate his wife by creating a fictitious online profile to pose as her on a fetish website, luring Ryan to the residence under the pretense of a consensual encounter. The scheme purportedly aimed to frame Ryan for Christine Banfield's stabbing death, after which Banfield allegedly shot Ryan. Well, the au pair, who pled guilty to manslaughter in Ryan's death as part of a cooperation agreement, testified that Banfield carried out the stabbing and shootings with her assistance in the aftermath to stage the scene. Now, Banfield testified in his own defense, and, well, kind of terribly in my humble opinion, denying any premeditated plot and asserting that Ryan had and fatally stabbed Christine, prompting him to intervene by shooting Ryan in self-defense. He described the accusations as implausible. Well, obviously, the jury rejected the defense's account. Banfield showed minimal reaction as the verdicts were announced, and he faces mandatory life in prison without the possibility of parole. Sentencing is set for May 8th so that we can go through that kind of perfunctory sentencing to give the victims a chance to speak as well. Couple of things to be had from this, right? First of all, don't kill people. That's good. Second, if you're going to kill people, don't do it with the young, impressionable au pair who will throw you under the bus as quickly as, well, she gets in trouble and gets a smoking good deal, right? Remember, what do we say, ladies and gentlemen? The threat of imminent incarceration tends to break the bonds of loyalty. Their bond was quite tight. Well, until they were both planning to spend a lot of time together in prison. Remember that. Anyway, how about this? Don't kill people. And, nobody wants a divorce. Divorces are terrible. Okay. You should always try to, fix it if you can. But if you can't, you got to move on. But don't kill anyone. That's not the way to do it. Okay. It's stuff. It's money. You can always make more money. The disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. That's right. The 84-year-old mother of NBC Today's Show host, co-anchor Savannah Guthrie, continues to be investigated as a potential kidnapping by police in Pima County, Arizona. Now, Nancy Guthrie was last observed at her residence in the Catalina foothills area north of Tucson around 9:30 p.m. to 9:45 p.m. on Saturday, January 31st, after family members returned to her home following dinner. Now, family members reported her missing on Sunday, February 1st at noon, following a notification from her church that she had not attended services. Upon checking her home, her relatives concluded a brief search before contacting police. Now, the Pima County Sheriff, a guy by the name of Chris Nanos, has characterized the case as involving criminal activity rather than a voluntary absence or a mere wandering. Now, the residence has been designated a crime scene with homicide detectives participating in the inquiry. Now, officials believe Nancy Guthrie was removed from her home against her will, likely during the early morning hours of February 1st. Sheriff Nanos emphasized that her limited physical mobility, she was unable to walk more than approximately 50 yards independently, combined with her intact mental sharpness, makes it improbable that she departed voluntarily. Now, key investigative findings include biological DNA evidence collected from the home, which police confirmed today belonged to Nancy Guthrie. The precise form of this evidence has not been publicly detailed beyond reference to possible blood traces in some reports. Now, additional indicators of foul play encompass signs of forced entry, evidence suggesting of some type of struggle, blood drops reportedly leading from the entryway towards the driveway, and the removal of her doorbell camera prior to the investigators' arrival. Now, data from Nancy Guthrie's health devices revealed her pacemaker ceased syncing with her Apple Watch left behind in the residence around 2 a.m. on Sunday, February 1st, providing a potential timeline for when she may have been taken beyond Bluetooth range. Now, Nancy Guthrie requires daily medication. The interruption, which could pose a life-threatening risk after more than 24 hours, and Sheriff Nanos has described the efforts as a race against time, expressing hope for her safe recovery while acknowledging the urgency due to her frailty. Now, there's been a reward of up to $2,500 for information leading to the arrest of anyone involved in the disappearance of Miss Guthrie. Now, police have also appealed to any relevant videos, photographs, or details from the vicinity of the home, or have directly urged any involved parties to release her unharmed, ensuring no questions asked. The FBI is assisting in the investigation, and there's been no confirmed motive that has emerged, as officials have indicated. No initial evidence links the incident to Savannah Guthrie's public profile, though this avenue remains under consideration. Now, Savannah Guthrie has traveled to Arizona to support her family and in cooperating fully with law enforcement. She's been absent from the Today broadcast, and today shared a public message on Instagram expressing gratitude for support and requesting prayers for her mother's return, highlighting obviously themes of faith, hope, and community solidarity. Now, Nancy Guthrie is described as 5 feet 5 inches tall, weighing approximately 150 pounds, with brown hair and blue eyes. The investigation remains active as of February 3rd, 2026, with no reported resolution. Now, individuals with information are encouraged to contact the Pima County Sheriff's Department at 520-351-4900, or you can leave an anonymous tip at 88-CRIME or the P3 Tips mobile app. This is a weird one, ladies and gentlemen. I've heard a lot of talk and speculation because we really don't know, but the fact that somebody removed the Ring doorbell camera from the front door clearly shows that somebody had nefarious intent. Indeed. The question is, who was it? Speculation that it was possibly maybe somebody that worked at the house, somebody familiar with the house. Could it be related to her daughter's work on TV? We just simply don't know yet. And why would they want to take her? Are they going to ask for a ransom? Was it just some random act to take an elderly woman and do something with her? Harm her in some way? Makes no sense. But this one, I think, is going to be very interesting. There's no reason to believe that she was just going to wander off in the middle of the night. So, like I said, there is some indication, obviously, that there was some blood evidence at the house. So was there a struggle? We just don't know. I bet, though, that iWatch will tell you whether her heart rate went up, which would potentially indicate a struggle. It's going to get very interesting, ladies and gentlemen. So stay tuned for more information. Next, an elderly Ohio man sentenced to life in prison. This is a weird one, ladies and gentlemen. We brought you this case when it first happened. So in a tragic case highlighting the dangers of some sophisticated scams targeting vulnerable individuals, an 83-year-old Ohio resident has been sentenced to what is effectively a life in prison sentence for the mistaken killing of a 61-year-old Uber driver. So William Brock, deceived by fraudsters into believing he was under threat, fatally shot Lo Letha Tolland Hall outside his home in South Charleston, Ohio, back in March of 2024. So Brock received a sentence of 21 years to life on Monday from the Clark County Common Pleas Judge Douglas M. Rasteter, following a jury conviction on charges including felony murder, felonious assault, and kidnapping. Given his age, obviously, it's going to be a life sentence. He will more likely die in prison. Now, the verdict obviously underscores the devastating consequence of this online scam that exploited fear and confusion, resulting in an unintended violence against innocent parties. So this incident stemmed from an elaborate fraud scheme in which scammers contacted Brock, demanding $12,000 under threats to harm him and his family. Believing the threats were credible, Brock grew increasingly paranoid. Unbeknownst to him, the perpetrators manipulated the Uber app to dispatch Tolland Hall to his residence under the pretense of collecting a package. Tolland Hall, a mother of one, arrived unaware of the scam and with no intent to harm anyone. And the dash cam footage from Tolland Hall's vehicle captured the encounter. And upon her arrival, Brock confronted her with a .22 caliber revolver, demanding she reveal who had sent her. He seized her phone and blocked her exit, escalating the situation into a physical struggle. Now, during the altercation, Brock fired multiple shots, wounding Tolland Hall in the upper left torso, left thigh, inside her left knee, and sternum. She attempted to flee in her car, but succumbed to her injuries during the emergency surgery at a local hospital. Now, in a recorded 911 call following the shooting, Brock described receiving persistent threatening calls from the scammers, who claimed to have a relative in jail requiring bond money. He informed responding officers that he had been on the phone for hours and feared for his life, stating he did not intend to harm Tolland Hall, but believed she posed an imminent danger. Body cam footage from the law enforcement further documented Brock's account, where he asserted self-defense, claiming Tolland Hall had attacked him after the initial shot. Prosecutors dismantled Brock's self-defense argument by emphasizing Tolland Hall's defenseless state. She made no threats or demands, merely inquiring about the package she was assigned to pick up. And the Clark County Assistant Prosecutor, a guy by the name of Kadani Scott, argued in court that a reasonable individual would not resort to lethal force against an unarmed woman based solely on a scam-induced fear. The response to verbal threats does not warrant the taking of a life, Scott stated, highlighting the absence of any immediate peril from Tolland Hall. Well, another prosecutor described the case as one with no victors, noting the true culprits, the scammers, remain at large, and the individuals who orchestrated this tragedy have yet to face justice. The prosecutors expressed hope that the federal authorities, including the FBI, would apprehend them for prosecution in Clark County. Anyway, Brock had entered a not guilty plea, and his sentence was briefly postponed last week when a defense attorney experienced a medical episode in court. And the final sentence comprised 15 years to life for murder, plus 6 consecutive years for a firearm-related enhancement. Just a tragic case all around. Too bad this gentleman Mr. Brock did not call the police beforehand. And maybe this never would have happened. But yes, he probably felt intimidated, maybe a little paranoid. But when nobody makes any threats against you, no matter how you may believe it, a jury has to say, did you act reasonably? And that's the thing. That's always the thing with self-defense, ladies and gentlemen, is yes, you can believe that you were in fear of death or serious bodily injury. But the question is, was that a reasonable belief for a juror to believe that? Here, they said no. They probably feel terrible, but guess what? They followed the facts. They followed the law. Sometimes you don't always get the result you think maybe the right one. There's some mitigating things. You would think the DAs and the defense counsels could have tried to work that out. But instead, now this 83-year-old man is going to basically die in prison. And we have the latest on the Nancy Guthrie matter. The FBI confirms there's an arrest in the deceptive ransom scheme. That's right. So the investigation into the abduction of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, the mother of NBC anchor Savannah Guthrie, has now reached its 6th day, with federal and local authorities intensifying their search while addressing fraudulent attempts to exploit the situation. Law enforcement officials have confirmed that Miss Guthrie was taken against her will from her high-value home in the Catalina foothill areas during the early mornings of February 1st of 2026, prompting heightened concerns regarding her medical needs, and she lacks access to her required daily prescriptions. Now, during a press conference on February 4, the Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos outlined key investigative developments. Forensic testing identified blood found on the property's porch as belonging to Miss Guthrie, with further evidence from the scene undergoing analysis. The resident's security camera system ceased functioning at approximately 1:47 a.m., but motion sensors recorded activity at approximately 2:12 a.m., suggesting possible interference or unauthorized access. Indicators of a forced intrusion include an unlocked front door and activated interior lighting consistent with an abrupt or coerced exit. At present, no specific suspect or individuals of interest have been publicly identified, as Sheriff Nanos noted that the investigation is ongoing and inclusive, with no one ruled out. Detectives have spoken with an Uber driver who transported Miss Guthrie following a family gathering on January 31st, verifying her home return without incident. Her son-in-law, Tommaso Cioni, was the final person confirmed to have seen her, assisting her entry into the residence. Now, the FBI has assumed a collaborative role in the case, announcing a reward of up to $50,000 for tips, resulting in Miss Guthrie's safe return to the prosecution of those involved. Now, in the February 4th update, FBI Special Agent Heath Jankel appealed directly to any potential perpetrators, emphasizing the critical nature of the matter, saying, quote, "This involves an elderly grandmother dependent on essential medication for her health. There remains an opportunity to rectify this before it worsens significantly." End quote. And on February 5th, during a subsequent news conference, Agent Janke revealed that one arrest has been made in connection with a false ransom demand, and a formal complaint is scheduled for presentation to a magistrate judge later that day. He further cautioned those attempting to capitalize on the tragedy that such action would be thoroughly pursued and prosecuted. Several alleged ransom communications have emerged, including one directed to TMZ requesting payment in digital currency, and another sent to a local television station, KOLD, which included non-public details about Miss Guthrie's clothing and property condition. Mary Coleman highlighted that the message contained confidential elements suggestive of insider knowledge, along with a stipulated sum and time frame. Investigators are actively assessing the validity of these claims, employing digital tracing methods such as IP address analysis. Now, former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe has observed that the lack of verified dialogue with the family may indicate that these are not authentic demands from the actual abductors. Now, the Guthrie family, comprising Savannah and her siblings, has issued a public plea for the captors to initiate contact and further confirmation of Miss Guthrie's well-being. In a recorded message, they conveyed their willingness to negotiate, saying, quote, "We require unequivocal assurance that she is alive and in your custody. We are prepared to hear your terms," end quote. Now, Sheriff Nanos has expressed confidence that Miss Guthrie is still alive, asserting that their assumption is that she is viable and their priority is for her safe recovery. Nevertheless, health professionals have advised that her state could decline swiftly without her medications. And this incident obviously came to light when a fellow church member alerted the family to Miss Guthrie's non-attendance at a service at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church, though records show that she had been attending remotely since the onset of the COVID-19 era. Now, family members reached out to her at her home after 11 a.m. on February 1st, finding her absent from her personal items such as her phone, wallet, medications, and car intact. Data from her Apple Watch indicated a loss of connection to her pacemaker around 2 a.m., correlating with the presumed time of the abduction. Now, President Donald Trump has directed federal resources to support the effort, offering national encouragement, and the nation stands in prayer for her and her loved ones, the president stated. A vigil held at the St. Philip's in the Hills Episcopal Church on February 4th attracted more than 400 participants, demonstrating obviously a lot of community support. Now, colleagues of Savannah Guthrie on the Today program have acknowledged the significant public response, noting its value in challenging circumstances. Now, police continue to stress that Miss Guthrie's fragility due to her age and health requirements, characterizing the abduction as deliberate rather than opportunistic. The public is encouraged to share any information with the FBI by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI or the Pima County Sheriff's Department at 520-351-4900, or you can give a tip anonymously through 88crime.org. Now, we are going to see, obviously, how this develops in the next couple of days. Probably this should be resolved one way or the other in the next couple of days. I think the police are not telling us everything that they know. They're getting close to solving this case. Let's hope so. I am one to believe that it's just a little too convenient that somebody just happened to abduct an 84-year-old woman. I don't think that that is completely random. It doesn't usually happen that way. I think somebody familiar with the residence, who she is, may have had something to do with it. Now, I don't know who it could be. Could it be the garbage man? Could it be the gardener from across the street? Who knows? We don't know. Look at the people who would benefit from Miss Guthrie's demise. That's, I think, you'd have to look at. But we'll keep bringing you the latest when it breaks on the Guthrie matter. The ransom note claims Savannah Guthrie's mother, safe but scared. That's right. Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of Today's Show host, co-anchor Savannah Guthrie, who was abducted from her Tucson area home in the early hours on Sunday of last week, sparking a high-stakes investigation now in its 6th day. So police have come to the conclusion that Nancy Guthrie, who has limited mobility and relies on daily medication and a pacemaker, was last seen about 9:45 p.m. Saturday after her family dropped her off following a dinner at her daughter Annie's house. Her pacemaker app lost connection with her phone at approximately 2:28 a.m. Sunday, and her doorbell camera was disconnected around the same time. Blood spatter on her porch later tested positive for her blood and DNA. Now, a neighbor reported seeing a suspicious unmarked white van parked on the street several days before the disappearance, describing it as a full-size vehicle without any company markings. And the chilling ransom communications, the ransom note sent to media outlets, including TMZ and local Tucson station KOLD, have added urgency and credibility to the case. One note sent to TMZ stated that Nancy is safe but scared and aware of the kidnapper's specific demands. It included private details such as the exact placement of her Apple Watch and a damaged floodlight at her home that were not publicly known at the time, leading journalists and police to take it seriously. Now, the demand reportedly includes millions of dollars in Bitcoin, with initial deadlines that pass without resolution and a follow-up Monday deadline as well. Now, the family has received at least one note directly and released emotional video pleas urging the abductors to make contact and provide proof of life. In one Instagram video, Savannah's brother, Cameron, said the family is waiting for contact and needs to know their mother is safe before proceeding. Savannah and her siblings emphasized they will not rest until she is returned. And the Pima County Sheriff's Chris Nanos appeared visibly moved during a February 6th interview on the Today Show, choking back tears as he discussed the case. "You have to have hope. We're going to find her," he said. "This is somebody's mom." Now, the FBI has joined the Pima County Sheriff's Department in the investigation, offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to Nancy's safe recovery or the arrest of anyone involved. Now, police believe that she may still be in Tucson or the local surrounding area and continue to treat the case as an active abduction. No suspects have been publicly identified or ruled out, though every person connected to the case remains under scrutiny. Now, one report citing law enforcement insiders suggests Annie Guthrie's husband, Tommaso Cioni, the last known person to see Nancy, has emerged as a person of interest, with investigators towing vehicles and searching properties for digital evidence. Now, Sheriff Nanos has stressed that labeling anyone a prime suspect prematurely could be reckless. Now, obviously, we're not saying that anybody is a suspect, and even if they were, they would be given the presumption of innocence. Now, separately, a California man named Derek Kallela was arrested for sending a fake ransom text demanding Bitcoin, underscoring the difficulty of verifying communications in such a case like this. What's real and what's fake? Obviously, the disappearance has drawn wide attention, and even President Trump publicly offered full federal resources and expressing prayers for the family. And Savannah Guthrie has stepped back from her hosting duties, including the planned coverage of the 2026 Winter Olympics, which basically has started, to focus on the search. Now, as the investigation continues, officials and the family are urging anyone with information to contact police. The $50,000 reward remains active in hopes of bringing Nancy Guthrie home safely. We're learning more and more. Clearly, that police went back to the house of Miss Guthrie, Nancy Guthrie's house, at some point. Could it be because they did, in fact, get the note and say, hey, we staged various things to show credibility as to what was in the house and where things are placed? It's going to get interesting. I think this is going to come to a head probably over the weekend. We'll see. And I hope Nancy Guthrie comes home safely.